Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome to Remixing Relationships, where we're promoting healthy relationships and doing things differently. All right, this is a show where we dive deep into the art of creating and sustaining healthy connections. I am your host, Kendall Anish, your fave life coach, the Remix Coach, and together we'll explore fresh perspectives and strategies to transform your relationships. Whether you're looking to strengthen, heal, or completely remix your love connections, you're in the right place. We are going to get started soon. I have a special guest with me today, and today's topic is intimacy versus sex. The real difference, right? It's a huge difference. And sometimes people interchange the two. They talk about sex and intimacy. They mean sex, they mean intimacy, but they talk sex, right? And we're going to talk about the differences and the nuances and how important both are. So I have I hope and I'm saying her, she is a relationship coach. She's been on here before and she's a licensed professional counselor. I know I got that all mixed up and she'll explain it, but she is a professional counselor. She is licensed, right? And she's also a relationship coach. So this is her jam, just like it is mine. So I love to have her. On season 1 she was on, and now she's back in season 2. And it's interesting because when I asked her to be a part of this episode, she said she was just talking about intimacy and the importance of it. So we're going to meet her shortly or reintroduce you to her. So if you are watching, please send this out right now. And if you are listening, because I have a little different, something different for the audio listeners as well as the visual on YouTube, because I don't want to do it the same way. So if you're listening, you'll get a little extra. And if you're watching, you'll get a little extra. So it'll be slightly different. So you can look at both of the episodes, right? And to see the difference in that. So without further ado, I want to introduce Natalie Alexander to Remixing Relationships. Woo, 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 woo.
Woo, 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 woo. Thank you, Kendall. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I have been thinking this whole afternoon, like, what am I going to say? How am I going to say what needs to be said today? So I'm excited. Thank you. I think this is well needed. This is a well needed conversation.
Absolutely. All I can say is let them use you.
Okay, Lord. Okay.
Let them use you. So there is a difference. So let's just talk about when I asked you to be a part of the show, and the first thing you said is, I just had this conversation about intimacy. Go as further, as far as you want. What type of conversation did you have, and what sparked that conversation when it comes to intimacy?
So, so this is where it's like, what do I want to share?
Right.
A friend of mine, a mutual friend, I have a friend, okay? And he and I have been friends for, I think, 3 years now. And another friend of ours, who I don't know very well, had called yesterday and was asking, where's Natalie? I was calling her to see if she wanted some, it was like a pickled sandwich. I'm gonna just be, tell it as it is. And he was like, well, I was sleeping in the car. We were driving back from touring Monk's Corner, and I was sleeping in the back. And he said to her, we will, there's food at my house that Natalie will eat. And, I got off the phone, and the friend said, okay, well, she'll be on the way to get off the phone. Now, I woke up when I heard him say Natalie, but I don't know what the rest of the conversation was. So when she got to his house and I saw that the pickle sandwich was there, oh, you got the pickle sandwich. She said, well, yeah, but I didn't get you one because he said that you were going to eat something at home. So in my mind, I'm going, but you didn't ask me. So what? And his his response was, I know Natalie intimately enough to know what she will need and what will be good for her. And it really took me for a loop. And we were talking about it on the way home, because his thing was, when you know somebody, when you have a friend and that you know them intimately, you know the nuances of what they need and what they don't need, you are able to just kind of answer and know what the need is and kind of just cover that person, if you will. But my mind went to, well, intimate, like, no, because you're talking about like a romantic thing. You're talking about something like a marriage or a fiance or a girlfriend. Like, friends don't get that intimate. Like, you're using the word intimate like it's something deep, deep. And he was like, no, intimate, to intimately know somebody, is to know somebody deeply. He had me Google the word, to know somebody deeply, and to just, essentially that, to be good friends, to be close friends. And just after he made that comment, you asked me to be on this this episode. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, because you just got off the road from, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. From South Carolina. He had been wanting to show me around South Carolina for some time now. And so he gathered myself and a few other of his friends and took us to Monk's Corner, where he grew up, and showed us his school and where his people live. And it was great. It was a really great experience, being in the country for a few days, waking up to the trees and the birds and the squirrels, and just sitting outside in the country. It was spiritual. It was a reset. It was the reset that I needed. Yes, it was.
I love that. And she just got off the road, and she graciously plopped there and did the show. She's been sitting there all day. You look so refreshed
Thank
and everything.
you.
So it's so interesting, because intimacy, you're welcome. And guys, it might be like a little 1 to 2 second lag. So please bear with us. So when he said intimate, right? And you looked up intimacy, what did you see? And did you think that that was intimate? Because that's what I want to talk about. So that was a prime example, because intimacy is different than sex, but
Yes.
people think sex is intimacy, and you don't necessarily have to be intimate to have sex. And that sounds crazy. But did you agree, once you looked up the definition, that intimacy was that? Like knowing you so well, or thinking he knows you so well, it was an intimate level of knowing.
Right. Yes. Yes, I did agree, because it was an intimate level of knowing. And his point was that he knew me, knows me better than the other person knows, and has known me longer. And so, based on that knowing and the attention that he gives me, and the things that he notices about me, like he was paying attention. He was like, she'd had this. I brought her here. She had eaten that, and there's food at home prepared. So this extra pickle thingy, it can wait. And his thing was, if she wants that, we can get that later. But right now, we're on the way home. There's food here. We'll do that later. And so it was a level, for me, it was an awareness of a level of intimacy that I had not been accustomed to. And so, not to go too far off topic, but then the question became, is my friend trying to control me? Or, is he trying to control me? Or is this a man that just cares about his friend Natalie, and knew that if she ate that pickle or whatever, it was a big deal, that she wouldn't be able to enjoy the food that he specifically catered for me and the rest of his friends. So,
yes.
Yeah.
But that is a prime example. I just want to talk about, so when you talk about sex, right, and intimacy, let's talk about the nature part of it. So sex is physical and biological. And
Yes.
intimacy is emotional and psychological. So
Yes.
those are the difference with that. The
Yeah.
focus is for sex is physical pleasure and release.
Yes.
Intimacy is emotional closeness and connection, right? What
Yes.
we're
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
Duration, sex often monumental, right? Duration, long lasting and evolving when it comes to intimacy. Or I should say, monetary for duration, often monetary, and that's the definition they give. Requirement for sex can occur without, that's what I was talking about, emotional bonds. Intimacy requires vulnerability and trust.
Mm-hmm.
The whole scope of it is sex is mostly confined, to romantic and sexual in the sexual context, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then intimacy can exist in various types of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts there? And then we're going to go into breaking it all the way down.
Okay. What I would add to what you just said is that the highest form of intimacy can be demonstrated in sex.
Mm-hmm.
The deepest, highest form of knowing somebody. And if you have a consistent sexual partner that's just not a friends with benefits, then you get to know that partner's physicality, likes and dislikes, nuances in the bedroom or in the wherever room, wherever you're having sex with your consistent partner.
In the
And
kitchen.
it still deepen
Mm-hmm.
the intimacy.
Yeah.
We can have sex without intimacy and vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
but those sexual moments don't last and they don't mean as much. After a while,
Mm-hmm.
for a woman, I believe it loses its luster. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter how good the performance is, but after a while, without intimacy and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, it loses its luster. Either that or the woman becomes deeply attached and hurt at the end of it all.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because sex is just, to me, sometimes it's just the act, right? But if there's no intimacy, if there's no looking, and I'm talking about looking into you, you know what I mean? Not just looking with glassy eyes, like you can't even, like it's just, it could be anybody there, right? There's a
Right.
certain type of look that you can give that looks like you're looking through somebody, to their spirit and to
Mhm,
their soul.
mhm.
But then if it's just talking about sex, the act, it could be an act where it could be anybody there. And that's not going to sustain itself. Eventually, the man or woman is going to find somebody else if they just need somebody to lay next to. But when
Yeah.
it comes to intimacy and foreplay starts in the morning, it starts all day long. And
Right.
that's what people don't understand. Foreplay is, sweet messages and conversations and prayer and all of that, conversing throughout the day, conversations about, different things that could possibly be intimate. And even what you said, just knowing the person, that's where it happens. And then it's more of a soul connection than just an act.
Right. And so what if because you said, foreplay starts in the morning. What if the whole relationship was foreplay?
Yes.
Meaning
How
you
about
all
that?
are, yeah, like you all are friends. You all understand each other and you all know each other and you guys, are connected to each other. So there's always a flame burning underneath. It never gets cold. It never gets snuffed out. Even when you get on each other's nerves, because that's definitely part of healthy relationships, getting on
Fact.
each other's nerves or having misunderstandings or having a level of conflict. The ember is still burning. It doesn't just come out. It in an ideal sense, in an ongoing healthy sense, it doesn't just snuff out. The
Mm-hmm.
embers, relationships erode because of lack of intimacy, because of lack of vulnerability and transparency, and the inability to communicate honestly and openly. Yes,
Yeah.
that's when relationships start to erode. Then the intimacy fades away, the sex might be there for a little while longer, but if the sex is not a vehicle to regain intimacy, then the relationship ends. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because in my book, The Magic of Relationship Resilience, Empowering Intimate Communication and Wellness, I talk about how sex can be the vehicle to reignite intimacy. The pillow talk after, what I call during the afterglow, we can reestablish, we can reconnect, because life happens. Relationships go through rough times, but sex is still the glue for two people who care about each other and who know each other intimately way before the sex happens.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you said that. And because people do withhold sex when they're angry or they're mad, both men and women do it. But when you said conflict is a part of a healthy relationship, talk about that a little more, because I think so many people like go to bed mad and they withhold. Well, I'm not going to do this. A lot of women do it and men do it too. Talk about that being a healthy part of the relationship, both conflict and sex.
When I think about what you just said, I to me that tells me that those people have not established a friendship where they know that they intimately know each other, each other's nuances, what kind of takes the guard down, what kind of takes the edge off. For example, if two people, something, he comes home and realizes, as she comes home and sees that he didn't take out the trash, and she has a little bit of an attitude, and she tells me, "We didn't even take out the trash today, like, come on, are you serious?" And then he just kind of brings her in for a hug. "I know, baby, this house stinks, but it's gonna smell
That
better,"
part.
And kisses her on the forehead, fixes her hair and says, "That's why I'm gonna give you some tonight. You won't be talking trash," and just lightens the whole thing, because
Yes.
girl, you still my girl. We're gonna work it out tonight. We're gonna make it
That
all
part.
better. And because we're friends, because we've already established that connection
That part.
and that intimacy way before the romantic and committed aspect of the relationship.
Natalie, I absolutely love that and agree 100%. Sometimes it's about the response. That's the thing. Something can be brought up, but how the other person responds, it could take hours, days, or it can take 2 seconds. Let's
Yep.
get back to loving each other.
Let's get back to loving each other. That part.
on.
Yep.
Yes. And to say that men have no idea how they can disarm a woman. It's so simple and easy.
Yeah. I think men do have an idea how to disarm a woman, but they don't know how it can benefit them on a vulnerable, deep, intimate level.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
Because
I totally agree.
Because I think that men, generally speaking, are not accustomed to them knowing themselves intimately. Here's the other part of intimacy, Kendall, is that we're, talking about being intimate with each other, knowing one another, but it's really not possible unless you know yourself intimately, and so that you could be transparent with what you know. And if your partner happens to point their finger at something that you weren't aware of, to be, I guess I'll say humble, for lack of a better word, enough to accept it, to see it, to explore it, versus being defensive about it because I didn't know about it. You don't know what you're talking about. And then here we go, eroding the relationship all over again.
Yeah, I totally agree. And people don't understand that effective communication and really understanding what someone is saying. And that's the intimacy. Understanding, somebody's love language. I know love language is overused, but you really have to understand how that person needs to be loved. And you can't do that without being vulnerable. Yes. And that's the thing. I want to talk, you talked about something earlier, and it's, I love pillow talk. Everybody doesn't pillow talk. Some people, as soon as if their head hits the pillow, they sleep. Men, women, otherwise, right?
Right.
But you talked about that. And I just want to define pillow talk for people who don't know. It's an intimate conversation. So when we're talking about intimacy, It's a relaxed, intimate conversation that can happen between sexual partners after sex or before. Pillow talk can include exchanging compliments, catching up on the day, or other small talk. It often accompanies by physical intimacy like cuddling,
Yep.
kissing, and caressing. People, and that's intimacy, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not hit it and quit it, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And you sucking your thumb, and well, maybe some might suck their thumb and then have pillow talk. I don't know. I'm not in everybody's room, but
Right.
that is a part of intimacy. Let's talk a little bit about that.
For a man, the pillow talk is the most vulnerable place that you will find him. It is the place where some say you can ask for whatever you want, and you are more likely to get it because he is at his most satisfied and most vulnerable state.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying for anybody to use this as a manipulative tool.
Come on, talk
So
about that.
much is to be an awareness of, listen, you've got your man's heart in your hands during the afterglow pillow talk. Move accordingly. Treat that with sensitivity, with gratitude, with appreciation, and yeah, awareness. And so, yeah,
You
the
keep talking about this afterglow. What are you talking about for people who are like, what is she talking about afterglow? What is that?
I've called it the afterglow because personally, um, it's kind of this. It's this space where the oxytocin releases,
Mhm,
and you're on this high, and you're
mhm.
feeling wonderful. You're feeling this gush of love for your partner and closeness and connection to your partner, and it's the afterglow. It's after the orgasm, if you will, after that climactic time. There's the oxytocin, that skin to skin connection. You're thinking about him. You're having the flashbacks. You're having the
Not
flashbacks
the
of,
flashbacks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're talking real. This real talk. It's the
Right, real
flashbacks
talk.
of what he did and how it made you feel, and the sounds and all the things in the afterglow. It's the glow
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
And I don't know about you, Kendall, but there are times when you can tell that a woman has been intimate with her partner because she's actually glowing.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And I forgot to put this disclaimer. This is for consenting adults. This episode is
Yes.
for grown folks, responsible adults. We're talking about safe sex. We're talking about, I guess, monogamy here, and just, at your own risk, whatever you're doing, that's your thing, that's your jam. We are here to give education and information. Okay.
Yes.
So
Thank you
what
for,
you do, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, go.
So what you do after that, we're both professionals here. We're both giving you the facts. We're talking personally and professionally as well. So if you are a child and you come across this, we're not talking to you.
Get
We're
off.
talking to the grown folk.
Yes,
And
yes.
and typically kids ain't sitting here listening to this podcast. The podcast is too long. They need something 2 minutes. Too
Yeah. Yes, they need
much
to be.
information.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Thank you for that, Kendall. Absolutely, I agree. This is for consenting, not only consented, but I will add consenting, committed adults
There you
that
go.
are committed to the longevity or a something long term. This is not for the fly by night. This is
Yes.
for people that have agreed to whatever it is, like what you said, whatever it is that they've agreed to. And
Right.
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I gave some differences earlier, and I want to talk about that and define them. Because there is a difference, a significant difference in sex and intimacy as we're talking today on
Mhm.
this episode of Remixing Relationships. As you can see, my guest is Natalie Alexander. She is a licensed professional counselor as well as an author and relationship coach. All right, so sex, everybody knows, maybe not. Sex is primarily a physical activity that involves engaging in acts that stimulate your partner. it can range from kissing, touching, and intercourse, right? So the biological drive with that is often driven by biological urges and desires. It's a natural part of being a human. That's how we all got here, people. And it's so interesting because early in my career, because of my brand, because of my morals, because of so many different things. And we're going to talk about this with sex. It was almost like a bad word. Don't do it. Don't do. So, and then you were talked about religion before and different things. So I remember I struggled with openly talking about it in a professional level. And I had an opportunity to be on Fox Soul, and the question was like, what, how important is sex in the Black community? Different things. Why should Black people care? And we were talking about that. You guys can find that on YouTube as well. It was on The Business of Being Black with Tammy Mack, and it was on Fox Soul. And that was the first time, and it was freeing because at first I was like, oh, because those things come back. And with sex, a lot of things come up for people. But I'm trying to promote healthy relationships here, remixing relationships. We're doing things differently. Right. So nothing is off the table when it comes to education, especially for us. We want to give, proper information. Right. But biological drive, as I said, it's an urge and desires, right? So every human is doing it. That's how we got here. Physical satisfaction is in reproduction or even just for fun, right? So then we talk about the momentary connection. While sex can be a form of connection, it is often more immediate and can be experienced without, as we talked about, deep emotional bonds. It's possible to have sex without intimacy, as we talked about. And then, of course, the physical satisfaction. The focus is often on the physical gratification, which can include the release of tension or the pursuit of pleasure. Go for it, Natalie.
Yes, it is easier to just have sex than it is to nurture intimacy.
Facts.
And it would be better for the Black community if we spent more time sorting out who we are as individuals than pursuing sex. Sex, it's a pastime for some people. And I would rather fortify who we are as individuals and our community by encouraging intimacy and transparency with one another than to pursue the pleasure. Because pleasure, after you finish feeling pleasure, it's gone.
It's fleeting.
It's gone. Versus vulnerability, transparency, intimacy, having a friend that you know and that person knows you, whether romantic or platonic, that lasts. It's long lasting. It has the power and the ability to change your cells down to the cellular makeup.
Talk about it.
Why would you not engage in pursuing the depth of intimate friendships? And that's what my friend was talking about earlier. He is a loving man. He is a caring person. He's observant. He does things for people in his community and the people that he brings close to him. And he pays attention and he pours into people. But I guess if we had more people like you, yourself, myself, and my friend, our community would probably be better for it. And to do the hard work is my point, to do the hard work of it.
The hard work and the heart work.
I like that. Yes.
Yes. And that's really what I'm about, because I'm to be honest, and myself included, I've had relationships that just did not work, me, them, the healing, the trauma, the triggers, they're figuring it out, the differences, whatever it is when a relationship does not go the distance. Of course, we know every relationship is not supposed to. But if you leave a relationship and you don't learn anything, that's on you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's important to be able to do that. And I'm tired of seeing relationships just not working, and they can work. I'm tired of seeing us not taking healing seriously, right? And having real conversations instead of, the housewives are nice. I watch Potomac, okay.
Mhm.
But I'm tired of just those conversations. Did you see what happened on, Housewives? Did you see this and that and who did what to what? I can
Mhm.
get down with the best of them when it comes to pop culture and the conversations. But I think we need to have more dialogue when it comes to, intimacy
Mhm.
and sex and
Mhm.
healthy relationships and how to
Mhm.
identify what's healthy and what's not. If
Mhm.
you're in a relationship, a committed relationship, and nobody is sick, nobody is hurt, nobody is unable, if you are not having sex, you're not in a healthy relationship.
Mhm.
Sorry, newsflash. If
Mhm.
you are not having consensual sex, loving sex, regular sex, and regular is how you define it.
Mhm.
The people in the couple, regular could be once a month for some. Some might be like, that's too little. If you define it in your relationship that once a month, once a week, 4 times a week, 3 times a day, you get to decide.
Mhm.
But that is part of a healthy relationship. If
Mhm.
you're everything is wonderful in your relationship and everything is smelling like roses and you two are not having sex and you are able to do it, able bound to do it, then it's not healthy.
Agreed. Agreed. At some point, I was like, oh, once a month. I get your point, Cadell, that whatever the couple deems is appropriate for
Mhm.
their particular relationship. I believe that was the point that you're making.
Yes.
So you were kind of just listing off whatever the time frequency is, whatever the cadence is. But 1 month, one time a month.
He's a
No.
truck driver. He on the road for 3 weeks.
Oh, you better take me
I'm
on
just
the
joking.
road with you. You better
He
take
might
me
be
on the
doing,
road.
he might be doing it more than once. He might be doing it more than once a month. Just know what you that's what you're saying. That's what the face says. But let's talk about that. What is a healthy, you as the expert, what is a healthy amount of sex for people in a relationship, whether they're in a relationship, whether they're engaged, whether they're married? What is a healthy amount of sex?
A healthy cadence for people that are in a committed
A
relationship,
healthy
uh,
cadence. I like that.
based on rate research for men, is every 72 hours. Healthy men, every 72 hours is when they need it.
Mhm.
And
When
so,
they need it, not
yes,
want it, need it.
no, need
Talk
it.
about that. Talk about that. We're breaking it all the way down. Talk about it.
It is a biological need. It is a need, right? And I understand that life happens. Men have children and they're married to the mother of their children and she's tending to the babies, et cetera, et cetera. What we're not talking about is the not the task, but the responsibility to your husband to provide that need to.
100%.
But it's not only, I have to emphasize this request is not only for him, it is still the glue to your relationship. Congratulations, you have a brand new baby, and oh my goodness, you guys are sleep deprived, but this is the necessity for community and for village. Girl, please
Mm,
take the baby. After the baby just sleep. I gotta go get some sleep so I can give my husband some
come on.
loving, because he's still going to work. He's still doing what I need for him to do.
That's
He's
right.
still waking up at 3:30 in the morning to get that 3:30 feeding for the baby. I need some sleep so that I can give him what he needs.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm 100% in agree with that. I apologize. I'm apologize. Sorry, not sorry for what I'm about to say. For the women that feel empowered enough to say, I do the dishes, I go to work, I take care of the kids, I cook and I clean. And then at the end of the day, he wants me to have some. Well, please give it to him. Because while you're doing everything at home,
Come
while you're
on.
doing everything at home, he's doing everything outside of the home.
Come on.
But I have to say that also speaks to a level of imbalance,
Mhm,
because and lack of community.
mhm.
I discourage women, wives, from doing everything and wearing herself so thin that she is unable to still bond and connect to her husband in an
Yeah.
intimately sexual way. That waking up is about doing, 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 doing. At the end of the day, you're so tired, you can't even keep your eyes open or just have a conversation with your man and give him something. He needs
That
it.
part.
It is a need. Like, it's so hard. I understand the need, but it's difficult for me to find the words to articulate the depth of that need.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you
When
do you think that some men find intimacy through sex? Do you think that they can have sex, then have intimacy and become vulnerability or vulnerable, or do you think that you need that first?
they don't need sex first and then intimacy. For men, it's
Thank you.
it's a choice. It's a
Yep.
choice because men are human too. They have thoughts, they have feelings, they are aware, they know what they like. Mature men, they know what
Yep.
they evolved and masculine men. They know what they like, they know what they don't like. So some men might play the game of let me pretend to be vulnerable so I can get what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And some men have mastered that. But a man in a relationship needs to be able to be vulnerable, know how to be vulnerable and intimate with himself to be able to articulate whatever it is he wants to communicate to his partner so that she gets to know him deeper. And then that lovemaking is that much better. Her ability to receive him is that much easier because she knows him on a level that nobody else knows him.
Yes.
And that was part of our conversation also with my friend that it's that knowing that nobody else knows.
Yeah.
That creates that depth of intimacy, which is translated in the sex.
That part.
And it's in the sex. I think you may have heard, men talk about learning their partner. And that's also the depth of intimacy also. So he gets to learn her body, the little things and positions that she likes, that really pleasure her. And so the expectation and the desire is for the man also. A lot of men really don't say that, but he desires to be desired. He desires to be known in the way that it's not just penetration. It's not just what do you call that? Not fallacial, but fallacial. It's not just fallacial. It's like other touches, other things, massaging his back
Yeah.
gently,
Yeah.
just massaging his neck or kissing his head or just stroke, all these things that he desires for you to know about him when you are making love to him. All of that is the depth of intimacy that is the icing on the cake that we don't talk about enough of.
And that's why I thank you. So that was well, no, go ahead, please. That was well said. And that's the reason why I wanted to do this show.
Thank you.
Continue,
Thank you.
please.
And I have to say that sex is such a spiritual place to be. I'm gonna let that sink in. Things are manifested in that space. When you know your partner and you know the desires of your partner, in that moment of climax, you can speak whatever you want to into existence in the life of your partner. Because God is there. And God is there because of the intention that you have for your partner. We know God is everywhere. We know God is everywhere and in all things and is good and is in all things. But in that space, it is so sacred that you can make a request and that you can make for your partner now. And it happened in that moment of climax. Now, I just gave you a gem.
She gave a whole gem. I hope you're taking notes, whether you're watching this live, listening live, watching it at the playback, listening to the playback. She gave you some gems. I hope you're taking notes. Let me tell you, you got me sitting here like, I agree with you 100%. You got me sitting here like, Natalie's talking right. She's talking right.
She's talking
And
right.
I already knew you would, right?
Thank you.
You talked about the exploration of the body, right? And getting to know your mate in that way. That is the sexual part is the intercourse. Anybody can do that. You can that's not anything special. Our bodies are designed to do that. But when you talk about when you talk about exploring the bodies and a mole here or a soft spot there, or when you're exploring the body, that becomes intimacy. That's the intimate part. When you're looking in eyes and you're seeing marks on the eyebrow or the back or the this and that. That's taking that time and that slowly walking into the intimate side. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the vulnerability lies, guys. I hope you listened to what Natalie was talking about. All right, so I want to talk more about the intimacy and the emotional bond.
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy is about emotional closeness and deep connection. It involves feeling understood, valued, and safe with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerability and trust is a part of that relationship, and it's a part of the intimacy. It requires vulnerability and openness. It's built on trust, communication, and the willingness to share one's innermost thoughts, fears, and desires.
Mm-hmm.
That's intimacy, people. If you can't look, I did a conference, the Thrive in the year of transformation, Thrive in 2025, last weekend, 2 weekends ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I did an exercise with the couples there. I said, stare into each other's eyes for 10 seconds. Some found it very difficult. 10 seconds. I didn't say 60 seconds. I didn't even say 30 seconds. I didn't say 5 minutes. I said 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Some couples did it with no problem. Some looking down, laughing, looking around. That's intimacy. If you can't stare into the eyes of your partner for 10 seconds, then I already know the intimacy level of that couple. I already
Mm-hmm.
know it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's odd, awkward, if that's your intimacy partner, if that's your sexual partner, if that's your person, then you should be able to do that. If you can't, it's not going to take you to the next level of intimacy. So
Mm-hmm.
I suggest if you're watching this live playback, if you are in a relationship, you're in a marriage, make sure you go look at your husband or wife in the eyes for 10 seconds. I didn't even talk about the hugging exercise that I do. All right. So long lasting connection, intimacy is not limited to romantic or sexual relationships, as we talked about. It
Mm-hmm.
can exist between, as Natalie was talking about, friends, family, partners. It's creating a bond that goes far beyond physical touch. Let's talk about it, Natalie.
Mm-hmm. That bond that goes beyond physical touch, and that comfort level of being able to look into someone's eyes comes with a sense of self-acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be seen when you're not comfortable with seeing yourself,
Mm,
right? Even from the physical sense, or from an emotional sense, right? There are people who still cannot, who still apologize to me when they cry in the therapy room.
mm,
And just that difficulty in that discomfort with being emotional speaks volumes to being able to be vulnerable in front of somebody that you call friend. There are some of us, a lot of us, who are not comfortable with the dark sides of us, the
mm-hmm.
parts of
The
us
shadow.
that are some of our community members might frown on, it's relative, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't want anybody to see that. We don't want anybody to know that. So we
Mm-hmm.
would prefer to create an image of ourselves that is not real, which also negatively affects intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I also have heard about men is that when they meet somebody, now this is some dating gems right here. A man will test a woman to see how much of him she can handle. The raw side, the heart, not harsh, but just really manly side of it, the funny side, the geeky side. He will show little bits and pieces of it to see how she responds before he allows himself to be vulnerable with her.
Mm.
Right? But the
Good.
tricky part is, because sex is a need for a man, he might not need to be vulnerable. He will just have sex. She's just for fun. I'm not going to let her know anything about me, but she's going to be just for fun. So it's tricky.
Yeah. That's good. I hope you guys are paying attention. I want to talk about healthy relationships and why understanding the difference between intimacy and sex matters. All right, let me look at my notes because y'all know I be preparing. Healthy relationships, recognizing that sex and intimacy are different, allows couples to nurture both aspects because both are important, right? You can have a physically active relationship, but still lack emotional and intimacy, and vice versa. So you can have just sex or just intimacy. And I always say, if I had to choose, if I only could have one, then of course I'm going to choose intimacy because there's so many layers to that. And
Mhm.
it's so many connections emotionally, mentally, spiritually that it's going to deepen and strengthen the relationship because there might be a time where your bodies are just unable to do it,
Mhm.
right? So if you don't have the intimacy part to back that up, then you're
Mhm.
going to walk out that relationship.
Mhm.
If
That's true.
sex is the most important thing to you, I mean, it definitely is important. Trust me. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that at all.
Mhm.
But if it came to a point where if you had sex without intimacy and then the sex ended up going away, and you never built a foundation on intimacy,
Mhm.
then that relationship is not going to work. You want to talk about that, Natalie?
I mean, you said it. You spoke it. That's the truth. Because it is just it is primarily like what you said earlier, a source of pleasure. Yes, it's the cherry on top, which makes it that much more pleasurable. But we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about anything that brings pleasure. Once you like ice cream, you eat your bowl of ice cream. When it's done, it's done. You can love donuts and you have your 12 Krispy Kreme and et cetera, and you have your donuts. When it's done, it's done. You could fill your belly with it or whatever, but then what?
Right.
There's nothing but some extra calories.
Right. Right. So,
Versus,
yeah.
yeah, versus the foundation of the intimacy, your relationship lasts longer. You're not going to want to leave the person because you have something that you've invested in. They know things about you. Like what you said, being understood, being
Mm-hmm.
heard it's invaluable.
It's invaluable.
Knowing that like the person gets you. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've heard that is deeply meaningful for men. She gets me. She
Yeah.
knows, she understands me like no other woman. She gets
Yeah.
me. He's not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
And allow them to take the cape off. And I think that's what men
Yes.
really want is,
Yes.
she's
Yes.
clapping to that. I'm telling you, because men want to be just like women want to take the cape off if they're, out there being a boss during the day.
Yeah.
They don't want to wear the cape. I don't want to wear the cape at home. I want to be soft and pink. That's vulnerable to me. I
Yeah.
want to be able to be, that's what I call soft and pink.
I think I like
Vulnerable.
it.
Yes. I want to be vulnerable. I want to be able to take the makeup off. I want to be able to just be how I want to be and
Mhm.
not that's intimacy to me.
Mhm.
To
Mhm.
be able to be away with my man, my husband, my fiance, whoever, where I'm not that way for everybody. You know
Mhm.
what I
Mhm.
mean? That's a
Mhm.
level of intimacy. Take the cape off. I don't want to wear the pants. I want to
Mhm.
take them off. You know what I mean? And I think men want the same thing.
Yeah.
They want to be able to take off the day. They don't want to, if they're boss, if they're doing their thing and running things, they don't want to feel like they have to do that at home too. Everybody wants to be able to be vulnerable in their place of dwelling, if
Yeah.
you will,
Yes.
right?
Yes. 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 They don't want to have to tiptoe and worry about what to say and what not to, not with their partner.
Hmm.
And this is a level of peace, right? Where I've heard that men need peace, men desire peace when
Yep.
they are in a committed relationship, where
Yeah.
it's just kind of like it's not a lot of mental gymnastics to be in relationship with this woman that
Yeah.
they're with, right?
Yes.
Which of course culminates in the sexual intimacy. We know the Bible verse that says, "And he knew when they knew each other."
Hmm.
Right, then so and so was born. And often it's not only from a cognitive, psychological, emotional space. It culminates, like I said, in the physical realm also, and
Yes.
it deepens in that realm.
Yes. You talked about something, and we're coming to a close, and it's momentarily. briefly, but you talked about something earlier. You said men would want sex every 72 hours. In your research, what do you find? How often do you find men want sex every 72 hours?
There was a part of that last question, the last part of your question that I didn't catch. Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I saw that was interesting. No, you talked about men wanting sex every 72 hours.
Mhm.
How often do you find women want it? Because women are liberated in that way. For so long, as I talked earlier, it was closed. A woman couldn't say that they wanted it or they needed it or they desired it. It was typically for the man to do it, and that was the stereotype, right? But how
Mhm.
often do you think women want it?
There's not a lot of research that shows about the desire for women, mainly because of what you said, how taboo it
Mhm.
was, because women are not supposed to want sex. They're not supposed to have high libidos. But there are women whose libidos are high who could go just as frequently as a
Mhm.
man. But I don't know that they need sex so much as they need relational connection,
Yeah.
right? I think for women,
Yeah. I know a
um,
couple that got divorced. I know a couple that got divorced because the woman wanted it all the time.
oh
And
wow,
he was like, I can't keep up. And
wow.
she said, I thought when you got married, it was supposed to be, she said, that's one of the reasons why I got married. She said, I thought it was going to be every day. He was going to jump on me. He couldn't get enough. And he was like, I could not hang. And he said that. And they got a divorce
Wow.
because that was huge for her.
Okay. I understand her point because I that was what I was taught also,
Hmm.
that
Me too.
men want sex, they want it all the time. When you get married, you better be ready to give it all the
Me
time, all
too.
the time, all the time.
And that ain't true.
It's not true. It's not true. Like
Mm-mm.
72 hours, right? There's enough break in between. Men can go longer. Let me just make that clear. When they're disciplined and they have, things in place and they have an understanding with their partner, they can go longer. But
Mm-hmm.
ideally, every 72 hours, some level of sexual interaction is necessary.
Yeah.
Women may not need it so much as they need the relational connection, the knowing of being seen by her partner, being heard by him, and the touch and things of that nature, not necessarily the orgasm or the sexuality of
Talk
things,
about it.
but the intimacy in other ways, that it's like an exchange. While she needs the emotional connection and vulnerability, I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
need now.
Mm-hmm.
He needs the
Said we're
physical.
talking need.
Right. He needs the physical
Mm-hmm.
expression of intimacy, and one is exchange for the other. He may not need the emotional exchange of intimacy, but it is a part of his being, so it is beneficial to him. Likewise, for the woman, she may not need sex, but the sex is also beneficial to her.
Yes, I love that. And you talked about something we know about the five love languages, and I've often said it, video conferences, that there's a sixth love language, and you talked about it often. And that's my core love language, is
Mhm,
being seen. You talked about that like 3 times and
mhm,
didn't even know. Like, that's my core love language, being
mhm,
seen,
mhm,
knowing, like, if I say this, that's not my heart. Or if this before I even get to say what I need, what I want, you know what I mean, that you have really invested time to really see me.
mhm,
and
mhm.
and it's not see me what I look like or who I am on the outside, is really see me to my core. I
Right.
want you to talk a little bit about that again, because you talked about that often, and I
Mhm.
was just sitting here in my head like, that's me. But talk about that a little more. And then we're going to talk about deeper in the connection and communication, and then we're going to be done.
One of my close friends said intimacy is, he broke the word down, intimacy, right?
Intimacy.
Into me,
Mm-hmm.
see.
See. Mm-hmm.
And women typically want to be seen, not for pay attention to me purposes, but because we are that expressive, the feminine energy is an energy that is expressive.
Mhm.
And so, the prettiness and just, our conversation, our communication, it's just a way of us, of seeing our spirits, of seeing who we are as people and as human beings, and as your girlfriend, as your fiance, as your wife. See
Mhm.
me. That song by Karen, what is her last name? Superwoman. I'm
Yes,
not the
Karen White.
kind of
Mhm.
wife. I'm not the kind of girl that you can let down and think that everything's okay.
Okay.
I
Oh, yeah,
want
yeah.
only
You mind.
like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's more than
This girl
occasional.
needs more than occasional hugs as a token of love from you to me.
That part, that part.
Right.
She wants to be seen for more than just what you can get from her.
Yes.
Right? And I'm sure men feel the same way. He is more than just a job or a night out for dinner or a good, sexual night or whatever the case is. We are more than that. It goes deeper. So I
Yes.
hope, yeah.
So I have a question here. It says, question for you both. What is it when the intimacy is there, but the sex stops? You want to answer that?
Mm.
So the question says, what is it when the intimacy is there, but the sex stops?
If the sex stops altogether, I would
Like a hard
explore,
stop?
I would talk about why the sex stopped in a committed relationship. Why did this, there's a reason why the sex has stopped. Maybe the intimacy, what you're calling intimacy, needs to be explored. What areas of intimacy have been blocked?
There's a reason it stopped.
There's a reason it
There's a
stopped.
reason it stopped. So use the intimacy that you have to have that heart to heart
There you
conversation.
go. There you go.
Yes, to find
That
out
was,
why. And that's what happens in these unhealthy relationships. People stop talking. If you're
yes,
not communicating effectively, if you're not communicating what's on your heart, if you're afraid to talk about what's on your heart, to
yes,
bring up what's in that heart space, that's not a healthy place.
no,
So you can get there by starting dialogue and conversation.
yes, yes. That with the intention of reconnecting sexually. You
Yeah.
can say that in the conversation. I noticed that the sex has stopped and I would like to connect to you in that way.
Yes.
What happened? And
Yeah.
start by holding hands. Start by looking at
That
each
part.
other for that 10 seconds. Start by hugging and just holding one another
Yep.
for a couple of minutes or the seconds or whatever. That 6-second kiss, start there. And
6 second kiss. They don't know about that. Talk about the 6 second kiss. Come
I
on.
mean, I mean, this is something that I personally had not done my own research on, that I heard,
Hmm.
that the endorphins are
Hmm.
released in that 6 second. Actually, it was John Gottman, that said
Hmm.
6 second kisses
Hmm.
actually release the oxytocin and create that bond, that deepen that bond. So start there. Have those hard conversations, but
Hmm.
intermittently hold hands. Intermittently stroke his arm. Intermittently look in his eyes. Make sure that you're looking at him while he's speaking to you and sharing his heart with you. It is not intimate when I'm looking here and he is looking here. That's not intimacy, my friend.
And that came from a man. That question was from a male.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So that looking at the focal point behind somebody's head is not looking at somebody in there. And people try to do that. Look at the ear. I've seen it a million times. Look at the ear. But I want to talk about the 6 second kiss, and it's so interesting. 6 seconds can turn your relationship around. The
Yes.
six second kiss is a daily ritual that involves kissing your partner for at least 6 seconds to
Yes.
strengthen your relationship.
Yes.
As Natalie talked about, it was popularized by marriage and family therapist John and Julie Gottman,
Yes.
who say the 6 second kiss is long enough to create a moment of connection and
Yes.
releases the
Yes.
oxytocin.
Yes.
6 seconds can turn your love around. Instead of turning
Mhm.
the beat around, it can turn that
Mhm.
love around.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
So deeper connection, building intimacy can enhance sexual expressions because there is a deeper emotional connection, making the act more meaningful. And then, of course, as we talked about, as we're going to always talk about when it comes to a healthy relationship, is communication.
Mhm.
Understanding the differences help the partner communicate their needs
Yes.
better, whether
Yes.
it's the need for physical touch or a deeper emotional bond.
Yes.
Don't think that men just want the physical touch and women want the emotional bond. Women want the physical touch and sometimes men want the emotional bond. We are
Yes.
more alike than different.
Amen.
You're not opponent, you're on the same team. I'm going to say that to the cows come home. You are
Mhm.
on the same team. When
Yes.
you win, he wins. When he wins, you win.
Amen.
That's how it goes. Ultimately, sex and intimacy are both important in their own ways,
Mhm.
but they serve different purposes. Healthy, fulfilling relationship often require balances of both.
Mhm.
Natalie, you have the final say on this here show and episode.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
sound
Thank
burnt.
you. What you said was on point. There's really nothing more that I can add to that. Really, I was over here saying amen, 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 and amen. Yeah, that's really it.
All right, let's see. He says, loving this episode. Thank you, ladies. To be clear, I've done everything you sold multiple times. You said, I'm sorry, multiple times. Well, then that might not be your person, young man, old man,
Yes, yes.
man in the middle. That might
Mhm.
not be your person,
That might not be
right?
your person. If
But
it's not,
also, you got to take a look at yourself. And I don't know you, but hopefully you've healed, you've grown.
mhm,
You know, you left the past relationship in the past and started it fresh.
mhm,
Communicate often
mhm,
and talk about what you need and what you feel. And if that person is not able to do that, then that is not your person, and
right,
it's okay. But we're promoting healthy relationships here. We have enough of broke down relationships in our community. We have enough unhealthy relationship, toxic relationships. We got enough of that.
right,
Everybody knows how to have an unhealthy relationship. But what
right.
I'm trying to do here is remix relationships and promote healthy relationships. Natalie Alexander, professional license. I know I'm remixing the name. Counselor here and relationship expert. I know y'all loved her. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Kendall. And
she's
to the
gonna come
gentleman,
back. Mhm.
to the before you close out, I have to say, to the gentleman on this episode, thank you for sharing, and my heart goes out to you. I just want to make sure that you are healthy internally, that your breath is what it needs to be, and that your areas, your erogenous areas are what they're supposed to be, and that you are doing everything that you can to present yourself to be attractive to her. And maybe she might not be attracted to you if you've done all the vulnerable things. She just might not be attracted to you in that way, and might
Mhm.
not be as attracted to you as you are to her. But once again, making sure that you have done everything to take care of yourself, as far as hygiene is concerned, as far as health and diet and all those other things are concerned, right? Because all of
That's
those
real.
also factor into the ability to be sexually intimate, in addition to emotionally, psychologically intimate. It's hard to communicate with somebody. Of course, I don't know this gentleman, but it's hard to communicate intimately with somebody who has bad breath,
That's
and
real.
and might not be pretty in the face. And with all due
Or
respect,
rough hands.
yes, hands. And it's hard to say that to somebody, but
Right.
of course, that's where vulnerability comes in, the ability to just be honest and to communicate. Hey, babe, I love you. You're my friend. You're my bestie. But let's save our money, or let's get some dental insurance, or let's just head to the gym, or I got this new, workout, whatever, to create
Yeah.
that bond, which will culminate into the sexual intimacy.
Yes.
Thank
And
you,
that's a high
Kendall.
level of intimacy to be
Yes.
able to be honest like that. And
Yes.
and not have your feelings crushed. But
Yes.
that's why you have to say it in an intimate, loving way,
Yes.
like you said, holding hands, and
Yes.
to know that you're on the same team and this person is not here to harm you. Now, if this
Yes.
person is harming you, that's something totally different, and there
Yes.
lies the problem as well.
Right.
Natalie, tell everybody about your book, how they can get it, how they can get in contact with you if they want to hire you for speaking engagements, if they want to hire you to be their counselor, their relationship coach, and more. All the
Thank
things.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My book is called The Magic of Relationship Resilience, Empowering Intimate Communication and Wellness. It is on pre-sale right now. The link is in my Instagram bio, Natalie Alexander LPC. You can find me on Facebook, Natalie Alexander, LinkedIn, Natalie Alexander LPC. My email address is thehealinggracecounseling@gmail.com. And once again, thehealinggracecounseling@gmail.com. I am here and available to help you help heal you and walk your journey through to wellness and intimacy. Thank you so much, Kendall. It's always a pleasure and a delight to be your guest on your show. And I love what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm always love you as a guest. And you're gonna come back, right?
Oh yes, yes. And I
All
would like,
right.
we need to do a part 2 on the piece of my love episode, because I want to discuss kind of deeper reasons as to why women accept a piece of his love. So
We
please,
can do that. We can do that before the month is over. I'm sure everybody wants a part 2 to that. And I
yes.
love having conversations with you. I love what you're doing, even on your Instagram. I
Thank you.
love the content that you're pushing out, promoting healthy relationships and open conversation and
Yes.
communication. I
Yes.
love it. So I'm proud of you. Continue doing what you're doing, and you are always welcome here. So we will discover a date that we both can do for this episode. I got so many episodes written down, and we'll
Yes.
definitely have you back for sure.
Okay.
Thank you for just coming in from out of town and sliding into that seat as beautifully as you're sitting to
Thank
be
you.
a part of this show. I appreciate this. This show would be totally different without you here, this episode. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
See you.
Back at you. All right, everybody. You heard it here. Make sure you follow Natalie on all social media platforms. Her book is on pre-sale. Make sure you get that book. Do yourself a favor. The holidays are coming up. I always say get one and gift one. Definitely do that. Also, you can reach me on all social media platforms at Kendall Anise, and on TikTok, it is the Remix Coach. My books are available on Amazon as well. Make sure you follow Natalie once again and schedule an appointment with her. Discovery call, a consultation. If you need help in your relationship, she is an expert. And y'all already see you, she knows what she's talking about. She hit everything on point. All right,
Thank
so
you.
thank you for joining me today as we explore new ways to remix and strengthen our relationships. Remember, healthy connections are within reach, and together we will create the love and life you desire. I am your host, Kendall Anise, your fave life coach, the Remix Coach, with a reminder the power to transform is in your hands. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep loving. God bless y'all. Peace. Subscribe to the channel and send this out. If you feel this bless you, please bless someone else by sharing this on your social media platforms, as well as texting it and emailing to folks, because I want to change the narrative with relationships, especially in the Black community. I want to see relationships last the test of time, and we can start
Amen.
it by having conversations like this. All right.
Amen.
Bye, Natalie.
Bye.
Thank y'all for watching.